how does repeated cold exposure change the body over time? Like, what actually adapts versus what people think adapts?
That's actually a good question. So what's happening is like after a while, it's not going to be your stress endurance and your tolerance level for the repeated cold exposure goes so high up that, that the normal conditions, so it's going to feel like normal conditions after a while.
Mm-hmm.
After repeated time, I'm coming from an environment from CrossFit and martial arts. So there already the stress level is really high because you're fighting against an opponent or you're fighting against time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I found actually ice swimming, because I was looking for something challenging and found it. So it's the adaptation goes psychologically. It's going to feel like you are in a familiar environment after a while. The more you repeat it, the more it's going to be like, okay, this is not so bad anymore. At the beginning, I remember my first swim was like, it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then we started with the winter. And by now we have a technique that we start once the weather is getting colder around, well, here in Central Europe around end of October. And we just go and swim or do a cold dip once or twice a week. So we go into natural lake and once or twice a week. So the competition season starts in December. By the time end of October, November, we already go with the weather. And by the time we get there to 5 degrees or below 5 degrees, you're already adapted to 14 degrees in the beginning, then 7 degrees, then 8 degrees, and it goes all the way down to below 5. So by the time the season starts, it's basically just a technical routine and the method that you gain from the practice itself. So
yeah, sure thing.
All I can recommend is that it's much more of a psychological adaptation than a physical one. It's much more frightening in the beginning as it is in reality. If you go on short tracks, of course. If we are talking about long distance swimming, that's a totally different animal. You can't even compare one to another. It's always a different feeling, even for professional swimmers who do it for years and decades. They always come like the rewarming and then fighting with the after drop. And yeah, that's a different story. So as I said, until short distances and mid distance, it's quite okay to get the cold adaptation just with the routine, without being frightened. But for the 1 kilometer and for ice mile, especially, now that's where the story begins to be a little bit interesting.
Okay.